Hey everyone, Kai here. So I am back with another book review, and this time it is The Memo by Minda Hart, and the subtitle is What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table. So I finished this book recently and I love it. I wish this book was out when I was starting in my career. I wish this book was out when I graduated, but I'm now reading it and I guess it's perfect timing. This book was really good. This book, I would compare it to the Lean In for women of color. Let me preface my review by saying I read Lean In and I actually loved it. Yes, I know it's not necessarily Sheryl Sandberg is a woman of privilege, but that book helped me negotiate a title change a few years ago, and it gave me the boldness to do so. Without it, I probably would have, been silent. So I really love that book. Minda, I don't know. She likes it. She respects it, but I think she recognizes that there has to be more. There has to be something for us, by us, and this is it. Minda was a part of corporate America until she broke free and she created her own organization called the Memo. And this is literally a career Bible for women of color. She has a lot of pop culture references in here, so it keeps even though this is a very serious conversation, there is not enough women of color in the C-suite. There is not enough women of color who are executives. We are not being paid what we should be paid in terms of gender equity, but more specifically in terms of women. White women make more than black women, and in other races, Asian women, Latino women. So there is obviously a problem here, and so the issue is not to be taken lightly, right? I love that Minda recognizes that a lot of women of color, a lot of black women, I am a black woman, we don't come into the corporate world with a corporate handbook. So we have to learn that corporate politics exists, sometimes the hard way, sometimes by making mistakes, and sometimes by seeing other people get promoted faster than us. A lot of women of color are extremely hardworking, and we think that our hard work will ultimately, if we lean in, if we speak up, if we do certain things, our hard work will pay off. Unfortunately, in corporate America, it doesn't always work like that. There's intricacies, there's politics, there's ways you should dress, or ways you should look, or ways you should talk. There's so many things and nuances in corporate America that women of color have to navigate in order to get to the top, and sometimes we don't even get there. We're doing everything right and there's still something wrong. So the Memo is kind of like from Minda's experiences, from her sometimes very heartbreaking experiences with microaggressions, her experiences with bad bosses, her experiences with salary negotiations. She is very vulnerable about what she's been through, so the next woman will not have to go through the things that she's went through. And I think this is goals, right? Like, this is a dream. When I was coming into corporate America, I was clueless. This could have expedited my situation by a few years, like I was completely clueless. There's no classes in college teaching you how to navigate corporate America. The real world in corporate America is just its own different ball game. The things that I have experienced, and I'm sure a lot of women of color have experienced, is so multifaceted, and we would be here for for hours, for days even, just talking about it. And it's unfortunate, right? It's extremely unfortunate. I had to learn from a white woman how to negotiate my salary when jumping to a new job. I had to learn that a mentor wasn't just going to fall in my lap. I had to seek a mentor for myself. I spent years resenting, just on the topic of mentorship, resenting the fact that I didn't have a mentor, and how did everyone else have a mentor and not me. And she talks about this. She talks about the difference of mentorship and sponsorship. How I got my first mentor was someone started working at my job. Me and her were both we were both Pisces. We connected off of that. And from there, I asked her out for if she wanted to take a walk with me. It was a summer day and we walked, and she got to know me, and we both just started asking questions. And eventually she prompted me, she said, "Kaidi, you're too smart to be at the job that I was at." She's like, "You need to move on to greener pastures. Like, you need to figure out what it is that you want to do and go for it." And that conversation, it helped. It was one of the determining factors where I was like, okay, I have to leave my first job. I can't be here anymore. And so that's what her mentorship looked like. And when it came time to applying to another job, she was right there the whole way. She was my reference. So, Minda gives all of that. She talks about mentorship versus sponsorship. Sponsorship, of course, being when someone advocates for you when you're not necessarily in the room. What I also loved about Minda, she helps you, negotiate. She talks about her experiences with negotiating salary. That's a thing. That's a huge thing for us. What I enjoyed also, building relationships. She talks about, a lot of women of color, when we get invited to after work events, we tend to say no. We tend to not want to go, and we just want to curl up watching an episode of Living Single and drinking wine. But she encourages us, go to these events, get to know the tea, get to know what's happening. The after work happy hours is when people really let their hair down and you really get information, and that's how a lot of people get in with the right people, and that's how they get promoted. So she talks about these things that are really important. These are things that I, of course, learned along the way. I've been in the game for a few years now, but I think this book is really great to give to someone that's trying to, a college recent grad, or, anyone at any stage who might be dealing with these issues. One of the last things that I want to address about this book, two things, is her resources. And these are the two things. She gives resources, let me go back. She gives a list of, women we should know in a chapter called Say Her Name. And I love that because there are a bunch of women, amazingly successful women who are on boards, who are executives at major companies, and they are women of color, and I have never heard their name, and I don't know who they are. I hear about the white women who are big name executives, but you rarely hear about the Black women. So I'm going to name a few of them if I could find it really quick. It's coming. Suzanne Shank, the chairman and CEO at Siebert, Cisneros and Shank. Christine Simmons is a COO at the Academy of Motion Pictures. Prior to that, she was the president and COO of the Los Angeles Sparks. Joanne Jenkins is the CEO at the American Association of Retired Persons. She has been recognized by Black Enterprise as the most powerful woman in business. So it's just, she has like a bunch of women of color who are executives, and we rarely hear their names. And, you know, we usually hear the CEO of IBM, I believe her name is Meg Whitman. We hear about the Sheryl Sandbergs of the world, but we really hear about the top women executive who are of color and who are killing the game. So I really enjoyed that chapter, just seeing and saying their names and researching who are these women. You know, and for those just coming in the industry or looking for, can these women be your future boss? Like, who are they? Would you want to work for them? So that was awesome. And then there was the last chapter, which is called Let's Work. And that's the resources chapter, where she is basically putting her money where her mouth is. This is not just a book that you read and learn about her life. No, she wants you to succeed. So she has different resources. I mean, I'm so blown away by this book. I want to give it to everyone. She has resources for assessment tests and personality tests and strength tests, because that's super important when you're applying to a job, or even when you are, you know, doing a resume or going to an interview. What are your strengths is a question. And people want to know that. And sometimes we don't even know it. It's something that I struggled with recently. I have a very hard time showing and sharing with people what I do. I know I do the work, but I don't know how to brag about myself. And, you know, look, that's my humility. And sometimes humility kills in the corporate America. You can't, it's weird. The dynamics is weird. So these are things that we have to get over. And she has tips on, like, different podcasts that you can listen to with regard to salary negotiation, resume tips, cover letter, email templates, following up, like thank you letters, gratitude, introduction. These are things that you literally need. Like the other day, I had to write a thank you note to someone and I had to Google it. She has a template right here, template for you of how to write a thank you note. And so this is pitching your brand is a template. You know, she has a different list of professional development conferences, ColorCom, Forbes Women's Summit, different podcasts you can listen to, different women's initiatives. I mean, she really is amazing. And this book leaves you with takeaways. It leaves you with work to do. So I encourage everyone, if you haven't done so already, I know this is a long-winded review, but pick up this book. It's so great. It's so necessary. And it's not only for women of color. She has a whole chapter dedicated to white women. So in learning how we can learn how to build solidarity. So we can you imagine if women put their differences aside and came together? Do you know the force that we would be, the contribution we would be to this world? Oh, I'm getting chills thinking about it, because we would, but there's so many roadblocks and differences, and yeah. So it's not only for Black or women of color to read, it's for all women, it's for even men to read. So pick it up, the Memo. All right, bye.